Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Elaine Chang. I'm the Senior Manager for Global Market Development here at TaroWorks. And we're super excited for this 4.4 product release. I think it's worth noting that a lot of the features in this release are directly from feedback that we've gotten from existing clients and other people that we've talked to. So I wanted to first thank everyone for this product feedback. We've listened and we've incorporated them, and hopefully you like what you see in 4.4. If you want to see what else is on our roadmap, you can find our latest version of that roadmap on our support site. You can reach out to your TaroWorks rep if you want to find out where that is. And I think I'd like to encourage everyone to keep these ideas for improvements coming. We're always excited to provide these features that everyone's looking for. So before I turn it over to Erin, I want to go through some housekeeping rules. So firstly, this session is being recorded. Secondly, the questions, we'll take questions after each feature. Erin will pause. Feel free to type questions into the system and I'll kind of monitor them. Otherwise, you can just say that you have a question and I'll unmute you. So I think that is it for me. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Erin.
Thanks, Elaine, and for the creatively crafted slide. All right.
Do you see the presenter mode?
Let me know when you can see my screen.
Okay, there it is.
All right, awesome. So hi, everybody. As Elaine said, I'm Erin, and today I'm going to demonstrate some of the major features of our TaroWorks 4.4 release. Quickly before we dive in, there are some of you on the call that are new to our platform, so I'm just going to give a brief overview. TaroWorks is an offline extension of Salesforce. It's seamlessly integrated with the Salesforce database in the cloud, so it can be used as a CRM, an inventory management system, an M&E system, or any platform to manage any type of information you need to create and use in remote places with no access to network. So as an example, let's say I work at a social enterprise called Aquacomb that builds wells and sells water filters and then monitors the health progress of the community that's using them. So our operations have stabilized in our pilot countries, and now we want to launch an innovation program to bring ideas in from the field on how to improve our work. So the main currency that we use in TaroWorks are jobs. We push jobs to mobile devices for mobile users to use, and mobile users complete them and submit them back to Salesforce. And a job can use a survey in order to collect information. So what we're looking at here is an example of a survey I've created to bring ideas in from the field. So we're asking questions like the name of the idea, what category it might fall in, and a little bit of description. And then we're also going to ask whether or not this idea is already implemented. If the answer is yes, then we'll ask question 5. If not, we're going to skip that using skip logic. There are 2 main parts of setting up a survey. Would be defining the questions and then also mapping those questions to where you want them to live in the system. So in this example, we have what Salesforce calls an object, which is essentially a table that are full of ideas that we want to map this information to. So I just need to, for each response or each question, define where the response is going to live. So then we would create a job that uses this survey and publish that out to the device. So if we take a look at the mobile user's experience, on the next sync, that job would come to the device. And when I go to my jobs list, I'll see this Aquacomb Innovation Program job and a list of tasks. So there's only one task in this job. And then I can start that task. So this is the survey that we were just looking at. We would give the idea a name. And then fill out a category. And a description. All right, And then just to show you what skip logic looks like, if we'd already implemented this, then we'd be asked an additional question. If not, then it would skip straight to the end. And then we can mark that job complete. If I'm out in the field and I don't have access to network at this time, I can sync later and do it when I'm do have access or back in the office. Otherwise, if I did have access, I would sync now, and that data would be pushed into Salesforce. So then I could go to my table of ideas and see that new idea that we just submitted, who submitted it, when, and all the information that was collected. So then this kind of data can feed into reports and dashboards, and those reports and dashboards can also be automatically sent to stakeholders, managers, etc. on a set like weekly or monthly basis as well. So that's a super high overview of how to deploy TaroWorks job. If you have any questions about our product or you'd like a full demo from our sales team, please reach out to us at hello@taroworks.org. So now let's talk about what new features are going to be available to you starting this Friday. The major features contained in this release are mobile data saving and recovery, field mapping of any scoring group, tabular format repeat sections, passing multiple records into repeat sections, and then there's some other improvements that we're going to touch on as well at the end. So starting in TaroWorks 4.4, we're moving TaroWorks data to non-removable storage. This change will further safeguard your job data from hardware failures and corruptions caused by other applications. Additionally, all of your survey data will be periodically backed up with the exception of media files. And then in the event of an issue, these backed up files can be sent to TaroWorks support, similarly to how logs are sent today. So let's just take a look real quickly. I'll show you where you can do that from. So under settings and then logs, there's two new options: to send backups and to clear backups. So if you elect to send a backup, it'll zip up the appropriate files and create an email to TaroWorks support. Okay, so are there any questions on this piece? Another thing I'd show you quickly that we've added is you can use the performance module as a feedback loop to show your mobile users what progress they're making against their goals with every sync. But sometimes maybe you don't have, the particular goals you want your mobile users to be achieving with a job, but the mobile user still wants to know which jobs they've submitted or how many. Now you can go to, when you go to Save Jobs, you see those same two tabs that we had before for any jobs you have on the device, and then you can also now see a list of the jobs that you've already sent in. All right. Any questions on any of that? All right, so next we'll move on to scoring. So TaroWorks already has a feature called scoring. This allows you to associate a numerical value with any single select and multi-select options in your survey. And then depending on which responses that mobile user selects, then TaroWorks will sum up the associated values and display the total score to the mobile user. So all that's there today, but as of TaroWorks 4.4, you can now write that score into your Salesforce database, so you can more directly map it. This is important so you can analyze your data using this score, and then you can also further leverage this information in your future operations. So if we take a look at an example, let's say I have a health access survey. I want to build a custom score or an index that will tell me which well site members have better access to health services. So we are asking a few single select and multi-select questions about the distance to particular services and what services they have access to. So in my scoring tab, I can associate numerical values with each of those responses and create a custom score called Health Access Score that's going to be displayed to the mobile users at the end of the survey. What's new is on our Field Mapping tab, I now have a row under the submission data for every custom score that I create. So this allows me to take the results of that summation and map it to any numerical value in Salesforce. So for this example, we're going to create a health access index record, and the score is going to be mapped to the field health access score. So just to show an example of that, we'll run through the job. Can pick a well site member to interview, answer the questions, and then we'll see our total score. So health access score of 5 for well site member 37, I believe. Must have been 36. Ah, sorry. Okay, sorry, this well site member. So health access score of 5 and all the responses that were synced in. So now it's a lot easier to map that summation or that score directly to your custom records in Salesforce. Any questions on that? Okay, if not, we'll move on to tabular format. So the next feature is the highly anticipated new formatting on the mobile device. If you're creating many records in a single job using a repeat section, mobile users can now enter this information as rows in a table. This makes higher volumes of data easier to compare and to review. And this can also help with adoption since the format is more similar to a paper form. So let's take a look at a registration example. I have a survey that's going to create a well site record and then also create as many well site member records as I enter associated with that well site. So the first couple questions are to create the well site, it's kind of like a header level information. And then I have this repeating section, and every time it's populated, it'll create a well site member record. What's new is when I click Edit on the section, you can see this checkmark box, Display Repeat Section as Table, which will do just that. So for every iteration of this repeat section that you complete, it will be up here in a row, and each question will be its own column with the caption as the column header. Also note that the Show All Questions on One Page is automatically selected when you select Display Repeat Section as a Table. This is because all the columns in the table are going to be displayed at once, so you can't create skip logic conditions amongst the columns in your table. It's all already going to be displayed. Yeah. So just to take a quick peek at the job, what we're going to be doing is selecting a region, and then that region is going to be used to create the well site, and then we'll create well site members for that well site. Let's take a look at what this looks like on mobile. So when I go to register a well site, first pick a region. And that's the type of soil to create the well site. And now I'm at a table where I can create well site members. So when you click on each input, a modal will pop up. And you can enter each input individually by clicking OK and then moving on to the next one. And you can do all of your question types in tabular format as well, including GPS coordinates, signatures, and photos. And then when I want to add another well site member, or in essence going through this another instance of this repeat section, I just click Add a Row. I can also navigate from column to column by clicking the next button, and also go to the previous button as well. And then you can also see that the coloration kind of changes, similar, so you can distinguish the rows better. Also, if you would like to add more questions that run off the page, maybe you're using a smaller device, you can always scroll left to right, so you're not limited by the size of your screen. Additionally, up to down, and the first column and the column headers will be frozen, so they'll always be visible. Okay, and then from a back-end perspective, this is going to work exactly the same as a repeat section does today. So we would create a new well site with those well site members. Any questions on tabular format?
Hey, Erin, I have a question about the scores.
Sure.
Would you like to take that now?
Sure,
or?
go for it.
Okay, great. Let me unmute you, Matthew.
Thanks, Erin. Thanks, Lynn.
Matthew, are you there?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks both of you. So going back to the scoring, I saw that you can do scoring based on particular responses. Can you also then weight those scores to roll up to more of a scorecard in general?
Not in the body of the survey, but that's certainly something you could do on the back end with a formula field.
Okay, great. And in this in the subsequent section that you just went through, the tabulation, just to be sure that I understand fully what that is that a series of questions that you might want to repeat a number of times in a survey, but you're not sure at the outset how many times you'd want to repeat it? Am I understanding that correctly?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, great. Really excited to hear about that feature.
Excellent. And then, Kay, I don't know if you want to chime in here, but in our next release, we're also releasing a feature called Dynamic Operations that will allow you to do some calculations amongst the values in your survey using JavaScript. So that might be a way as well that you could, if you wanted to display that weighted score to your mobile user, I think you may be able to do that in Q1. Kay, is that accurate? I don't know if she is. Okay.
Yep, that's correct.
Wow, that's wonderful. And I'm sorry, what do you refer to? We refer to that series of questions that you might want to repeat. For example, you know, for each of the household members, so there may be a series of questions related to education or labor. We refer to that as loop and merge. What do you refer to that feature as? Just so
a repeat section.
Repeat section, even better name. Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
No problem. Great question.
Matthew. We have another question, Erin, from Michael Oliver at Better Life. How hard is it to enable tabular format on existing surveys?
Great question, Michael. It's as simple as we just saw. Let me pull back up Question Builder. If you already have an existing repeat section, once you do, oops, in the wrong survey. Once you do the upgrade, then you'll have this checkmark box there. So all you'll have to do is come in and check that, and that's it. Did that answer your question? Great.
He says yes.
All right. Any other questions on anything that's been covered so far? All right. So finally, we've added functionality to the Drilldown Hierarchy. Just a reminder for people that are newer, the Drilldown Hierarchy is Drilldown Hierarchy is what allows you to dynamically pull data from Salesforce with every sync to use in your TaroWorks jobs. So if your mobile users ever use our repeat button job today, you're probably going to love this feature. In TaroWorks 4.4, your mobile users will be able to use as many records as they select in the last level of their Drilldown Hierarchy, as pictured here. So this will save your mobile users time. It'll help them more efficiently leverage large volumes of records from Salesforce, and it should minimize the need for that repeat job button. So let's take a look at this in action, how we configure it, and what it looks like on the mobile side. The main configuration is on the job, but just to give you some background on what the job is doing, we're going to be doing an attendance example. So the mobile user might be going out to the field, conducting a training, and they might want to create a session record that represents the training that took place, and then attendance records for every single person that they want to record attendance for that session. So we've got, again, kind of a regular section that's some header level information to create our session record, and then we've got a repeat section to create an attendance record for every single well site member that we're going to select in the Drilldown Hierarchy. We're also using our other new feature to display this repeat section as a table. And what's going to be powerful about this is that because we can select many members in the drill down, we can pass the well site member values into this repeat section, and each well site member name would go into its own iteration of that repeat section, or visually in its own row in the table. Should speed up taking attendance. Now just look where this actually comes into play, how you configure the ability to pass in multiple records from a level of Drilldown Hierarchy. This is our job for this attendance functionality. The first thing the mobile user is going to do is select a training module. So we're using our Drilldown Hierarchy in this job, which means dynamically new training modules can be come to the device with every sync. The mobile user selects which one they're actually going to be training on for the day. Then they'll start down the next Drilldown Hierarchy, and they've been assigned regions, and they can pick the well site that they're actually doing the training on, and then all the members that belong to that well site, so that they can create attendance records for each of those. So what allows that mobile user to select many well site members, for example, not many training modules. We're saying we only want you to do one training module at a time. It's this checkmark box here. So allow the mobile user to select multiple records in the last level. So that checkmark box is what's going to enable this feature. As always with Drilldown Hierarchies, this is how you configure a job to expose data to your mobile user. So this is what creates those menus of records for them to choose from. If you want to use that information to pre-populate responses in your survey, that happens on the task mapping. So the second step to using this feature would be to say, okay, whatever well site members that the mobile user selects in the drill down, take the well site member name and pre-populate it into the well site member question. So since this is a question in a repeat section, TaroWorks knows to create new instances of that repeat section for every record that you've selected. I know that's kind of a lot to describe at once without visually seeing how this is working, so let's go to the job, and if you guys still have questions on this, we can come back and kind of compare and contrast what each of these are doing. So if we go to our jobs, we're going to go to our attendance job. The first Drilldown Hierarchy is what training module are you going to train on today? I'm going to train on clean water. The next is now to go select all of my well site members. So today I'm working in Amber City East in well site 18, and these are all the members that we just synced in or created with our registration job on our last visit. And now you can see, because I checked that, we switch back to the job here, because I checked this checkmark box to allow mobile users to select multiple records in the last level, I can now either select all of these records or some subset. So in our example, in my business, I want to create an attendance record for everybody, all the well site members at my well site where I'm conducting the training. So now we are going to complete any header information. We can add session notes if we want. And this is what's going to build the session record. And now we come to our repeat section. And based on the number of mobile records that were selected in the Drilldown hierarchy, this table is going to pre-populate a row with the well site member's name in that column. Then I can just simply say, okay, this person attended and this person did not. I can use the either navigation to complete that. So then when we sync that into the system, we can go to that clean water training module and go to our newest training session. And I can see who attended and who didn't, and a separate record was created for each member that I'd selected in the Drilldown hierarchy. So the real power of this is being able to now create and relate data with many references within the body of a single survey. So, you could do this before, but I would have to select a well site member's name, I'd potentially repeat the job, and then do this again. So with this ability, you can more quickly create and relate more data. It also allows us to create information like how many trainings the well site member has attended or missed, and their percentage of rate of attendance, things like that. And then before we open up for questions, I just wanted to go over a few tips when you're using this feature, when you're passing multiple records into repeat sections. Firstly, you always want to use an unlimited repeat section. The reason for this being, and actually let me take a step back and explain what a limited repeat section is. You have the ability to drive the number of times that a section loops and merges, or a loop and merge section, or a repeat section is repeated based on the numerical response from a previous question. So the classic example is, how many family members do you have? And then maybe you want to fix the number of times that section repeats based on, because you want to ask the first and last name of every family member, for example. The reason you would not want to use that in conjunction with passing multiple records into the repeat section is there's no guarantee that the mobile user is going to select the same number of records in their drill down as they're going to answer that question that's driving the number of repeats, right? So that could lead to a bad mobile user experience. Secondly, you always want to use tabular format. Again, just a better user experience for the same rationale as the first. If you think about how our standard repeat section works today, you're asked all the questions in the repeat section, and at the end, you're asked, do you want to go back and do this again? Or do you want to repeat this section again? If they answer no, when they have more records to fill information out, or they answer yes, and it turns out, the reference is blank because you've run through all the records that you've passed in, again, just not an ideal user experience. So you always want to use unlimited repeat section in tabular format when you're passing multiple records into repeat sections. The next two aren't necessarily specific to this feature, but important nonetheless. So one is, you always want to use auto number fields as reference IDs. So if I am referring to an existing record in Salesforce, I want that reference ID to be unique, and ideally it's not changeable, which the auto number field meets both of those criteria. It's always unique. It's generated and increased by Salesforce on the initial creation of any record, and it can't be edited. So whenever you're using a reference ID, my recommendation is that you use an auto number field for data integrity purposes. It doesn't mean that your mobile users need to care about the auto number value, or they need to recognize it or work with it. You can always use a text field as far as what you're showing in your Drilldown hierarchy and what you're showing in your survey, but you're also going to want to show the auto number in your survey for that field mapping of the reference ID. And then finally, this sounds generic, but always test your jobs before deploying them to the field. In a lot of cases, we want our functionality to be really flexible, and that includes this feature. So we can't always prevent you from doing something that you don't intend to do. So always want to test your jobs yourself on, ideally on a device that you're using in the field before you are pushing it to your mobile users. Okay, so questions on passing multiple records into repeat sections.
Erin, I think first, yes, let us type in your questions. I had a question for you, which is, I think these features are super exciting, and attendance is something that we've heard a lot about and what you've just demoed, but can you give examples of how other, like what other use cases you've heard from people that this might address?
Sure. So we have a few customers that are selling, distributing, or managing products. So if you want to reference multiple products in your system, for example, to create an invoice or a distribution receipt of some kind, you can now do that. If you imagine the same way that we did the Drilldown Hierarchy for our members, you can now do that and select multiple products. So maybe the first drill down would be who you're distributing the product to, and then you might go down maybe region, product family to products, and then you can select all the products that you're leading with this person or distributing to that person to create like inventory transfer records and things like that. That's just one example. Does that answer the question, or can you think of any others, Elaine, I should touch on?
I think also I've heard people who want to, check in on a family, and so it's helpful for them to see kind of just in one place all the responses for like all of the household members. Have mimics paper that way, so that's more for kind of like typical surveys.
Yep.
Also, I think for agriculture, sure, if you're checking on various crops, or if a farmer has various crops, you can kind of preload those crops and answer information about each of those.
Yep.
Yeah, I think really flexible. Great. I don't think we have other questions from the audience, so we can keep going.
Okay. All right, great.
Oh, sorry. Oops. Oh, there is a question. Sorry. So this is from Manuel in Mexico. Contact records don't have master detail relationships with the object communities, but instead to an account for each Hilo Central. They want to use this functionality to record visits to each customer in each community. Mm-hmm. What's the best way to do that?
I probably would need to dig more into your use case, Manuel, but in reference to this feature, if you're drilling down from account, are you saying the relationship is not, there isn't a relationship between contact and account? So you'd go account, communities, and then individuals in the communities?
Let me try to, actually I think this might be specific to their instance. So Manuel, if you don't mind, we'll follow up with you after and then kind of get more details around your data model. Okay, great.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Sorry, Manuel, if I may have misunderstood the question. Anything else? Manuel, I'll ping you right after this session. Okay, so just a few other improvements that we wanted to note. Well, I say small, but they actually could be huge in the eyes of some of our customers. The first is if you have hundreds or thousands of mobile users, you can now search on the contact name in the mobile user tab to get right to the mobile user record you need to work with. So no more paging through your mobile user records. If you're adding mobile record assignments then for the user, you can also use the contains and does not contain operators. So currently we only have equals. So we've opened that up a bit, and you can also select relationship fields now to do your mobile record assignment. We've increased our limit on cascading select values per survey to 48,000 values. Salesforce had made some changes, I think, prior to our last release that created some limitations. So we have made this more efficient. And if you reference the same file multiple times in the same survey, it's only counted once. So should have increased flexibility there. And then finally, if you're exporting raw survey data today, that would be the response count in the surveys tab. Right now, in that file, that CSV file, you're seeing the database or the API name of your survey questions in the headers. And now, TaroWorks 4.4, you'll see that the question label instead. So more user-friendly, the actual text that the mobile user would have been seeing when they entered the responses. Any questions on any of that? Okay, so if you've never done an upgrade before, first of all, if you're feeling uneasy about it, please feel free to reach out to support. We'd be happy to talk it through together with you or go through it with you for the first time. But with that said, the steps to upgrade are published on our customer support site. And so, as long as you complete all those steps, you shouldn't have any problems. So if you're already on TaroWorks 4.3, there's only a few steps to getting on 4.4. The process should take under an hour, but you always do want to do upgrades at a time of low activity for your mobile users. If you're on an earlier version than TaroWorks 4.4, you're going to need to complete the upgrade steps for each major release. So for example, if I'm on TaroWorks 4.0, I need to complete all the upgrade steps for 4.2, and then all the upgrade steps for 4.3, and then 4.4. For your mobile users, though, from their perspective, they're only going to need to download the new APK file once. So if I upgraded from 4.0 to 4.2 to 4.3 to 4.4, you would just let your mobile users know when you were done with all that on the back end, and then they would download the 4.4 APK to their device. It's usually about 10 megabytes, so being in a place with decent connectivity or data is ideal. Any questions about upgrading? All right, so we also wanted to use this forum just to make a few friendly public service announcements that aren't actually related to this or may not be related to the release. You've probably been receiving notifications from Salesforce regarding our TLS changes, maybe the past like 6 to 8 months, but the main takeaway is that starting in March, all of your mobile devices need to be on Android 4.4 or higher. If you think this is going to affect you or you want to discuss this further with us, feel free to shoot us an email after the session. Also, our new tabular format requires a pixel density of 189 pixels per inch. Most phones on today's market exceed those requirements, but you do want to go ahead and give your field device a test. And also as admins, if you've been using certain emulators for testing, you may not be able to see the text in tabular format. So we want you to be aware of that. We don't support using emulators for the input of actual data, but I do know, including myself, use them for testing. And then finally, we just wanted to put in a plug for a new article in our customer support site about how to set up a job to estimate land area based on GPS coordinates you could capture with TaroWorks. We especially want to highlight this for our ag and our conservation clients. So feel free to take advantage of that, and if you need some assistance or you'd like us to set this up for you, you can engage us to do that. Any questions on any of that?
Erin, I have a question from Erica Lloyd at Soil about upgrades. So kind of back to slide. Her question is, what's the timeline to upgrade? So is waiting a month or so problematic? What is the suggested time frame?
No, great question. So we typically have releases quarterly, and we technically only support the current and previous release. So just trying to keep up to date with our releases from that perspective is ideal. But yeah, waiting a month is not a problem. It's really whatever works for your operations. Some of our customers like to do it in line with a time when they have all of their field staff together. So when they have all the devices in one place, that way when they download that new APK, they can hook up to Office Internet or maybe help their field officers through if they're going through an upgrade for the first time. So waiting a month is just fine. You should be able to do the upgrade as soon as Friday, though, if you'd like. Did that answer the question?
Yes, it seems like it does.
Okay, great. All right, anything else? Okay, well, that's all we have for today. So if you do think of anything else, please reach out to us at one of these emails. We hope to see everyone upgrading to TaroWorks 4.4 after we publish the release on Friday. And thank you all for joining. Have a great day.
Thanks, Erin. Thanks, everybody, for joining.